We will start the class today, and our focus is on blending formal and informal scientific and traditional knowledge. It is obvious that when we blend two systems of knowledge, there will be questions. So it's very important that we recognize the tensions we have discussed in various sessions. So let me begin with identification of the tensions. So who would like to begin and tell me what are the tensions in blending traditional, and I will keep on writing them. I mean, why should, first of all, we be interested in this subject? As a scientist, you are expected to produce latest scientific findings, research, which will help solve our problems. Why should it be necessary for us to pay attention to traditional knowledge? And if so, how do you think we can validate those claims? And what are the tensions that will arise if we were to validate? Our tensions can emerge from our peers, from our superiors, from our colleagues, from reviewers of our papers, a whole range of people. So who would like to mention what are the possible tensions? And I'll keep on writing them so that we can write down these tensions. So let me share this screen and then I will. So what are the tensions? Let us begin to list them down. Anybody can start. What are the tensions while discussing the blending of modern scientific knowledge with traditional technological knowledge? Then we will review literature from all around the world today and see what kind of tensions people have noted or have not noted, and what kind of transactions have been going on in this regard. And is there a need for us to rethink this issue? So who would like to mention what are the tensions? Anybody? Communication gap. Okay. Let me. So one is communication gap. Very true. I agree. Second is traditional knowledge is considered backward. Very true. Many people think that. Third, no, but belief system, but what are you trying to say? But what does it, why the tension emerges? Hesitation in accepting its validity, okay. And when you say that there is an improper link, you have to explain to me. Okay, this is a very good point. The lexicon used by both systems is quite different. The terms that we use are very different. What else? Lack of faith, of course, in each other, or lack of trust. Many scientists believe that what communities do is a mumbo jumbo, and the communities may believe that the scientists don't understand. Nandita, please tell us what could be the sources of tension between when we try to blend the formal, or let us say the modern scientific knowledge. And so I'm not sure TK is simple, but I'll write down TK is assumed to be simple, whereas we are supposed to do complicated science. Okay, it's not, I'll put question mark here because there are some very complex solutions I will mention to you in a minute. What else Okay, I mean, we believe that that modern science is superior, which may be true in many respects, but not in all respects. What else? What are the other tensions? Tensions in making this relationship become stronger. Okay, TK is believed to be superstitious. Sometimes you believe that much work may have already been done, which is which is possible about any science actually. So lack of novelty. What else? That's right. Knowledge is verbal, oral, and therefore yes, that's a point. Much of TK is oral. That makes it difficult sometimes. But you know, and Mary, what we're saying is that our purpose is to find scientific validity. So it is true that at the moment it may not exist. We're trying to understand what are the tensions while trying to arrive at a scientific validity. So when we want to let us you submit a proposal, what are the likely questions you are likely to you will face, or what are the tensions that will arise in your mind or mind of reviewers or mind of the director, mind of the funding agency? So, Devinder, I'm not able to understand your question. Dilemma in success of the hypothesis. Which kind of hypothesis? I don't understand this point. What are you trying to say? Ethical issue, very important, very important, very important. This is one of the very major sources of tension. And I will focus a lot of attention to that today. This is very important. TK is at an early stage of scientific claim. So a long value chain might arise. Okay. Anything else? Let us see. Public use. Prachi, that is a problem about any scientific research. Why only this? Any scientific research, I mean, unless it is of some value, would serve limited purpose, except in basic science where you expand the horizon of thinking. I'm trying to see if I missed anything. Anything else? People presenting might still want to keep themselves. Yes, this is an important point. Many communities want to keep their knowledge secret. Yes, that's true. That is true. That is certainly true. What else? Now let us look at some tensions in terms of our own conduct of the scientists. What could be the tensions in our own conduct? Yes, I agree. Some TK maybe It's very true. I have no doubt about it. Right? But Vaishnavi, that is our purpose. We want to find science behind functional TK. Maybe I should have used the word functional here with functional. So we were not getting into the belief system. We are talking about the things which work. So, and some of the things, some of the methods by traditional communities involve modern material. For example, we were in Jammu Kashmir once, and in apple tree, there is a stem borer which affects the productivity. So we were talking to a farmer, how do you control the stem borer? He said, sir, we put little petrol in the hole and seal it with data or something. And then the vapors of the petrol will kill the insect wherever it is. Now that was a very creative use of a modern material for killing the pest where otherwise any other chemical would not have reached. And you don't have to drench the plant in the pesticide. So you are using very small quantity of petrol in the hole, and by the evaporation, it would become vapor and then reach the point where the insect is and kill it. That seemed to be sensible. Some other people did in coconut, where stem borer, they not a stem borer, there's a rhinoceros beetle, which makes a hole in the trunk. They will put little jaggery. Ants will come to eat the jaggery and go inside the hole and try to kill the rhinoceros beetle. Now, that was a very interesting ecosystem-based traditional knowledge. So let's look at what are the other tensions which have been mentioned. Not encouraged, okay. Awareness, okay. How, yes, I think these are some relevant points. Let me add these. Okay, so awareness is lacking. That is one problem, and we have to solve this problem. You also mentioned about the so first of all, let me explain that why are we trying to blend? Let me share the presentation. Why are we trying to blend? Our reason for discussing this subject is that there is a merit in the way communities solve problems, sometimes at very low cost, sometimes in a very with a very simple step. And at times they discover properties which would take a long time for us to discover. After there are tens of thousands of species, and if we were to screen each one of them, it will take a long time. I had given example, National Cancer Institute, when it screened 35,000 plant species for cancer, Texas baccata was one of the few 5 or 6 which were found to be effective. And in Dehradun and other regions of that altitude, this tree later on disappeared almost because of the excessive harvest. That's a different matter, but a very unfortunate development. But that apart, the fact remains that in the conventional system, if we go by screening of species possible, maybe our protocol is not correct for screening. That could also be a reason. So let us look at a case example, and through that case, we will see some ways in which we have been able to take this issue forward. And that's right, sometimes the projects have to be long-term. So Sonu Hembram was a scout who documented the traditional knowledge of late Sri Shatrughan Prasad Vaidya, Jharkhand, 2007-8. When the prior search was done by the team in NIAB, they found that the claim was new. Patent was filed with the help of our dear friend Tom Turano, who was at that time PhD, and later on that company was taken over by Kalen Gates, Bill Gates' father's company. And Tom Turano did not charge any paisa to us. The patent was filed without any cost because he respected the work that we were doing. And we had corresponded and met several times. So he had offered us help. right from 2003 onwards, he had been 2000 onwards, he had been filing patents for us without any cost in the US, and many of it were granted. Interestingly enough, TKDL opposed the claim in USPTO for this claim of typhoid, and we withstood our claim because TKDL's objection was based on a very cursory knowledge. It was not specific enough for typhoid. So then what happened next? A patent was filed, as I said just now, and this is the patent number. And this patent was filed, and you must appreciate this, in 2010, and it was granted in 2013. And of course, to camouflage the main plant, we had mentioned many species which were belonging to similar group of plants that could be used for controlling the bacterial infections. And patent was granted. When patent was granted, simultaneously we started research in ICMR's virology unit in Kolkata. Deprasad Chattopadhyay was there at the time, and his other colleagues. And Shatrughan Prasad Vaidya, the innovator, was one of the co-authors. Shanta Datta was at that time director, I think. So this paper was published in Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy, 2018. Mind you, the plant extract in this case was found effective against multi-drug resistant Salmonella typhi. So it was a case where the traditional knowledge was better than the modern science. Not inferior, not less effective, not just also useful, but more effective, because you know about AMR, antimicrobial resistance problem, in the many diseases, and in the typhoid this no different. The strains collected from the patients which were found to be resistant to the various antibiotics available were screened against this extract, and it was found that even those could be controlled. So here is a case I'm taking where the knowledge obtained by a traditional knowledge holder was superior to anything and everything known at that time in modern science. So what did he do? He developed models. Some of you coming from biological science would know it better. The typhoid is treated with drugs like ampicillin, chlorphenicol, amoxicillin, ciprofloxacin, etc., and they took the extract and developed both toxicity trials and also in vitro trials to see whether the symptoms, or at least the organisms, can be controlled. And they found great degree of effectiveness. So look at this. We scout the knowledge, we formulate, we file a patent in India and US, because if this drug goes around the world, we might be able to make the claim, or at least the company in US might like to license it for global market. We do the blending of research is done, knowledge is used, and the knowledge holder is one of the co-authors. In the patent, mind you, the patent is only in his name and his son's name, as you can see here. So there is no scientist of NIF or Honeybee Network, or for that matter of the ICMR lab, is owner of the intellectual property. So intellectual property is wholly owned by the healer. He's no more now, late Shri Shatrughan Prasad Vaidya, and his son. But in the publication, we said you can share, no problem, because after all, scientists also need recognition for their work. So this is a model that I'm trying to share. I like this to be the benchmark in the mind you should keep when you compare other cases. So there's another case where Dr. Kundu of National Center for Soil Science looked at some of the plant extracts for cancer, against skin cancer. and found their effect on the control of the cancers. And he found that the migration of the melanoma cancer cells using wound assay, the migration of the cell was reduced due to treatment with herbal extract. So very advanced science was used. Some of the best models were available that were used by Dr. Kundu. But if some of you know this model better, you might be able to evaluate its worth. But to my mind, and as I learned from Dr. Kundu, I think Dr. Kundu able for studying the in vitro trials. Now, what are we trying to say? In this case, the blending has been done with the modern science. Now I come to the spider case. And just now, Dr. Anamika shared with me a paper which I will bring to your notice in a minute. So what did we find? We found that the community of whitewashing people use the fiber use the cobwebs as the protein as a blood coagulant. I had mentioned that before. And we had spider cell line was prepared, and the cell line showed that it was effective. And then it was very interesting. A paper was published in Science. Now, some of you were hesitant. How can research being done on traditional knowledge or materials be published in top journals? Now, Science, you all know, is one of the top journals. And what was the problem they were finding? They were finding a problem that they were not able to replicate. They were not able to understand how can protein not precipitate using water released with the protein and used in making a fiber. They looked at both the processes, how the insect spins it and how the insect releases it. And they studied, this is a paper I would recommend those of you who are in material science and want to understand how natural materials can have properties. A combination of high strength and extensibility is a characteristic unavailable to date in synthetic materials. Please understand. The scientists are admitting that the properties that silk, the spider's web silk has, is not available in any modern material. Another example where modern science can benefit from natural materials, but also benefit from the knowledge that people have of how spiders' webs are formed and behave, and the uses that people have. So this is another example where we could come across, they are talking about medical devices might use these materials made by if you could synthesize this. Now I'll come to third point, which briefly I had mentioned earlier, but today we will go into greater detail. And we will look at only one aspect of it, which is practice in Andhra Pradesh, Godavari district, documented by Dr. Chari and his colleague from Rajamundry Tobacco Research Center. He was working at the time there. Many years ago, 92, we had published an article in Honeybee Newsletter. I would send you, or Dr. Anamika would send you some of the old issues of Honeybee so that you can all see what we do in this magazine. So we will send you a 25 years special issue. Now, this was the practice. So what did we notice? We noticed that the United States of America recommends officially the use of milk for plant disease, virology, on the site virologyga.com. We published in 92-93 in our newsletter about the use of milk for viral control. The Economist wrote in 2013 that one of the proteins in milk, mother's milk, protect infants against HIV infection, October 26, 2013. The link is given here. So for plants and for humans. Let's look at some more research. So 1934 was the first paper on inactivation of viruses by milk. 1941. in greenhouse tomatoes and so on. 1951, 1962. And the study by Dr. Chari and Nagarajan, Godavari, where they found that farmers were using it for a lifetime immemorial. Now, I wish, and you will see next, we have a paper where they show how whey proteins can be used. Of course, none of this acknowledges the community. That's a different matter, but let us look at the scientific matter. In Michigan, they mentioned about in 2014, in Canada, Ontario website, Agriculture Department, they again recommended in 2005, milk as a management tool for viral diseases. And they mentioned that this has been found to be effective in different crops. And there was a paper published at our suggestion. Research was done. We sponsored it in Kazuri, Jaipur. And they found that it was useful for certain powdery mildew and some other fungal diseases also. Now, before I go further, let me stop here and ask you. Among those of you who had a view skeptical about the potential, do you see that there is a potential now? Before I proceed further, do you see that there is a potential in this blending process? I've given you, of course, some of the outstanding examples where the traditional knowledge is proving to be better than anything available in modern science. You know that we don't have any modern solution for viral control. There's no medicine, no pesticide. And here is a solution, very simple, low cost, simple, but with good science. With good science. And there's a postdoc in Australia who did work. I had once reviewed a lot of literature on milk as viral control. And around the world, good research is going on. Not so much in our country, unfortunately. Apart from Kazuri study, I don't know of many studies in our country, for whatever reason. And the purpose of talking to you today all is that, well, I don't know, but milk and turmeric are being used. I use it daily in the morning. I assume that it helps even against COVID, but one could explore it better. One could explore it more and then understand. The point that one is trying to say is that, no, Kaushal, that is not true. The Ayurveda has only knowledge about, let's say, 1400 plants, more or less. They mention many more, but 1400 are the ones which are used in most medicine. They have 43,000 species of plants. So naturally, the folkloric knowledge is far, far richer than what is given in Ayurvedic text or Siddha or Unani text. So please don't be under the impression, because TKDL deals with only codified text. And the knowledge that people have are about species that may not have been codified so far in the last 5,000 years. Because that is the evidence. People have done studies to find out how many plants are claimed in Ayurveda or Siddha or Unani. So please understand, a whole lot of knowledge remains to be understood and documented, not just about plant, but also about various materials. We just now took the case of silk, but there are other materials, low carbon steel, for example, and many other materials of this kind, which require a specific kind of furnace in Chhattisgarh and parts of Jharkhand, where tribal people make arrowheads. After we all know about Ashok Kilat near Qutub Minar, which has not been rusted for 2,000 years. And we still have not discovered what could be the chemistry and physics of that process in which that material was synthesized or was fabricated or forged 2,000 years ago, exposed to the nature. So please appreciate that there could be examples where traditional knowledge could advance the frontiers of science. And this is where my interest lies. We are trying in this course to draw your attention to these trends that exist in people's knowledge. There are weaknesses we don't deny. There are myths we don't deny. There are superstitions we don't deny. Those problems are there. But mind you, superstitions are there among scientists too. When Tarapur nuclear project was made critical, those of you who work in radiation research might know or might have seen the television news that day or later on. They had made a swastika sign on the reactor, praying to God for keeping it safe. Now, what is that? That is superstition. When Chandrayaan was being launched, our head of the space program and our Prime Minister was sitting there in his row. And after a few minutes, after 15 minutes, 20 minutes, he will go out and come back. Now, when Prime Minister is sitting, security wouldn't allow people to go in and out like that. But he was the boss, so he was allowed. And later on, somebody asked, what was he doing? He was going out for prayer. Prayers. In a scientific mission? Yes, because that was his belief system. There are scientists who do Ganesh Puja and other pujas and all that. So please understand that having beliefs in certain cultural norms is not contradictory to pursuit of science. You can pursue high quality rational science and still have quote unquote irrational beliefs. That's fine. That happens in life. I would take that as our imperfection. But the point remains that the potential of traditional knowledge, and this is a good point, Ashwini, that you mentioned, that in China, they have gone far ahead. First of all, the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, 1 in 5 US citizens have used TCM. How many have used Ayurvedic medicine? Fraction. No comparison. And second, in many hospitals, on the same floor, you will find on one side TCM, they use the word patented Chinese medicine, treatment opportunity, and another side allopathic medicine. And a person can combine the two. I've been to such hospitals in Beijing and many other places. So they allow the individual patient to decide they want to get acupuncture or acupressure, and they also want to take medicines. By all means, do it if you want to. Scientists don't oppose it because some people get benefit from those therapies. So that's fine. They allow that. So what I'm trying to say that there's no, yes, you are right about steel. Have we been able to shift your beliefs or your preferences little bit towards the knowledge system of people? Have we? Honestly, if not, say sir, no sir, our beliefs are not modified. We still believe that there is not much logic in working towards the traditional knowledge system. As I said, we took some of the strongest examples because we wanted to obviously begin with areas where we are stronger, where the knowledge system of the people is stronger. And there are many other examples that we'll come to now. Okay, let us see, before we will have break, let's go further and see some more examples where a plant in Amazon forest, let me get full screen. A plant in Amazon forest, Sitka, was used for validation. This plant is from a Quechua community in Ecuador. But that community has not been made, or any elder of the community has not been made co-author in this case. Recent paper, not too old, 2018. And they have identified biologically active indole alkaloids and many other compounds. And they believe that this will empower communities. It will also increase the respect for the scientific basis of their knowledge and may also help in conservation and so on and so forth. It is a painkiller, stimulant, and antiseptic. Now, we all know that this is an area where a large number of people suffer muscular pain and other pain. All of us, including myself, have pain in my legs and some of the muscles. And it is not easy to find any treatment in modern science. So we suffer, continuously suffer, and we live with it. That's kind of reality that we have. Now, if there are solutions available for that, certainly it is very welcome. But As you will see here, there is just an acknowledgement, but no authorship, no authorship. It is found in many parts, Brazilian Amazon, Colombia, Ecuador, Guinea, Peru, Venezuela. So it's widespread. Obviously, the knowledge of this plant will be widely shared by various communities. So let's go further. And so this is the plant and various compounds that have been identified. Some of these may be possible for synthesis, in which case you will not draw upon the biodiversity and you will be able to use synthetic compound. But there are some scientists who believe that the same compound, when synthesized, may not always behave the way natural compounds. So maybe there is some element of stereochemistry which is involved, or there are some other dimensions of the way molecule is bound or is stereochemically organized, that may change the natural. When you synthesize, it may not be the same way as it is in natural form, although the molecular structure is same. There could be some reasons, I do not know. Some of you will have to figure out, in which case it will be useful then to conserve the species and grow it fast, grow it widely. They did a lot of other knowledge, documented a lot of knowledge. Again, it's only the community's name broadly, the tribe is mentioned, no reference to the community leader, no reference to the healer. And this is the way business has been done. This is the way last 100 years or more knowledge extraction is going on. Formal scientists have been documenting and dealing with this knowledge for various commercial and other products. Never anything goes back to them, nor are they acknowledged as author of knowledge. So one of the tension point, as one of you mentioned about ethical issue, this is a very serious ethical issue. And we need to really tackle this. In fact, we would not lose anything. Let's say there are 5 authors and one of them is a elder of the community or healer. How would your paper become less valuable? Do you think paper would lose any value if you make them as co-author? Aisha, this is a point I really don't, and you have to explain to me. Like, can you explain to me mixture? But we were talking about a molecule, whether the molecule, when extracted from natural compound, natural source, and when synthesized, could behave differently. If you have some insight on that, I'll be happy to, if you can mention that. What are the possible reasons? Why would the same compound extracted from natural source and synthesized in the lab behave somewhat different in some cases? Not always, but some cases. So I have no clue. I mean, this is not subject that I have studied enough to be able to comment on it, but I'm sure some of you know much more than I do and will be able to throw light on it. And I will suggest that some of you may tell us in the next session, if possible, how this can be the reason. Now let's look at, yes, we can isolate. Now look at the acknowledgement of this paper. In acknowledgement, they mention, we are grateful to the member of Kichwa community, so-and-so people's assembly, collaborating families, they're valuable. They are just put in a footnote. People who are the author of the knowledge are put in the footnote. And who is the author now? The one who chronicled it, who documented it. That doesn't seem to be very fair. That doesn't seem to be very fair. We need to look at it again. There in the paper. Karaluma Lesiantha for scientific validation of Indian traditional knowledge for various kinds of gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. And they found that the extract had higher inhibition against gram-positive than gram-negative. And there is a good research done because she has been able to explain why the cell wall of the gram-negative bacteria is different, and permeability of that cell wall requires different kinds of biochemical reactions versus the gram-positive. So there's a good science in it. I appreciate that. But no reference to the scholars as author. So science is growing, science is progressing, but people are not progressing along with. So which means that the bridge between the two system of knowledge is not symmetrical, is not reciprocal, is not very fair. Yeah, bond angles, that's could be the point, yes, and epigenetic conditions, Vaishnavi. And these are the questions on which I would like you to do some research and review of literature so that, scientists begin to understand that there is something in nature which we still have to figure out when we do synthetic chemistry. And of course, synthetic chemistry has delivered lots of compounds and lots of solutions, a lot of polymers and a lot of paints and whatnot. I mean, the material science is full of new synthesized materials. So I have a great respect for material scientists and for the matter all scientists who are developing new solutions. But nothing would be lost if we were to work together. And best science should be used. I was very happy when Sirisha has given explanation as to why these compounds are effective against gram-positive and not gram-negative. And then I read all of that, and I found that it's very interesting that their cell wall, she has identified the reason why it is so. And then, of course, she's also found the relationship, why these extracts work, what compounds are there in this plant, which compounds have been found valid for which kind of organism. I mean, a reasonably good study, no doubt. But my regret that the people who gave this lead to the authors were not made co-authors. This is another example from Bangladesh. For schizophrenia, they have found some plants. Schizophrenia is a very serious problem, as you know. There are not too many good medicines, and a lot of young people suffer. Young and old people suffer from this. I personally know of family members who have had this problem. So we are always looking for good solutions. And if communities have that, what is the harm if we can make them co-authors and involve them? They have looked at the results of compounds from different parts of the same plant. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. And they have seen that different communities are using different parts. So there's a variety of knowledge system which people are trying to use. So it's interesting that the dialogue on the synthetic chemistry is continuing on the chat. That's very nice. Another paper on Caralluma ambella. Now, please, after we give a break, I would like you to look at some examples of traditional knowledge from your discipline. So if some of you are in material science, some of you are in electromagnetic, so if you have understood the conductivity properties of some of the traditional materials, alloys, we all know about ashtadhatu and many other things that were used. So if some of you would give examples after we will have a break in a few minutes, I will take some more examples. I would like you to take some time off, maybe 15 minutes, to each one of you do research on finding out some examples in literature from your discipline, from your domain, and then share with us so that we internalize the logic. And if we discover that in our country, we have neglected this field of knowledge, where other countries or other societies are paying a lot of attention, then perhaps we need to figure out. Now, this example of IICT Hyderabad, where they have found a new pregnant steroid from the strength of this. And very good studies they have done. I mean, you can look at the paper and you will find they've given the molecular structure, they've done all kinds of research. This paper, again, no reference to the healers by name, no acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is there, general acknowledgement, but no name in authorship. And very unfortunate. This is from Australia. Very interesting paper. How the traditional communities use water, and the modern scientists have tried to find the science underlying that for managing the ecosystem. Again, no authorship. No authorship. Now, this is a very interesting paper. Again, from Pakistan, for diabetes, same tradition, whether it is Australia, Pakistan, Peru, Mexico, India, doesn't matter which country it is. The violations of, we are thankful to the university, so and so, for supporting the research, and the community somewhere, that's it. Now, this is a paper on the plant which are used to catch fish, some kind of poisonous plant. Very good research has been done. They're talking about integrating the knowledge system, but wouldn't make them co-authors. Valid knowledge, good science. And they're asked this question, is it respectful? But then they have something interesting here. They are at least acknowledging that it does open some directions which modern science did not have. And they believe that they could perhaps learn much deeper insight from the traditional knowledge that they would have able to get. Now, this is a paper from NIF, where the first author, there are colleagues from Srishti, colleagues from NIF, and the first author is the knowledge holder, Khumaji Badaji Katabia. It is for tick. Now, we tried that this should become the norm, where the knowledge provider from a local community becomes the first author. If for some reason you don't want, at least they are co-author, because it wouldn't matter to them whether they are first or author. But in this case, I was happy that they agreed that the entire team, including the research staff who worked on them, all of them who worked on the experiment, and they showed that for controlling tick, this solution was very effective. One farmer authored the knowledge that made a solution very affordable and accessible, and it can be used as DIY solution. Very effective. I'll give one more example. Again, here you have the first author, different paper, but first author is the community member, farmer, whose knowledge was used for mastery herb, for mastitis. And I would wish this become the norm. That's my wish. The blending is taking place. So what I'm saying is that my complaint is not that there is no blending taking place. Blending is taking place all around the world. In Europe, in US, in Australia, India, Japan. We have papers from all over the world. What is not happening enough is the shared ownership of knowledge, shared authorship. And what is not happening also is that very seldom are the findings shared with the people in local language to enrich, to empower, to increase their confidence in their knowledge system. So in a village, you have a meeting and you explain to them, look, this knowledge we got from a village, so and so had provided us this lead, we did research, and you may not understand the chemistry of what we did or the physics of it, but we want to tell you that when we compared it with the best of the medicines in the market, we found this to be more effective. Now, if you tell this to people, if it is indeed so, you are going to be completely truthful to scientific finding. As in that case of typhoid, the claim was better than the control was even for the antibiotic microbial resistance. I mean, those strains of typhi organism bacteria which was resistant to all known antibiotics. Wouldn't that be nice to the community to hear this? Wouldn't that encourage the young people in the community to then pay more respect to the elders and their knowledge system? Today, young people are not interested neither in the labs nor in the villages. So my job, and both of us are trying in this course to bring this respect for the sake of good science, affordable excellence, as Dr. Mashirkar often calls it. affordable, accessible, and available knowledge which is available to people at low cost, but with the best scientific backup and with good publications for the authors. I've shown you this Journal of Science. There was an interesting paper which we republished in Honeybee with the permission of the author, which was published in PNAS. And what was it about? They found 3,000-year-old vessels during the archaeological finding in Egypt, in which the wine was stored. So they scraped the residues that were there in the vessel and tried to find out the compounds in the residues. Then this went back into the chemistry and tried to find out which plants had those compounds. Then they went back and found out which of these plants grew in this region from the historical records. And they were able to then hypothesize very well about the plant extract which were used by people 3,000 years ago in making herbal wines. And their effect, of course, that then went into PNAS. This paper was published. After the break, I'll give you the reference. So what I'm trying to say is that top journals, good science will be published in good journal, no doubt about it. And good science can be triggered by a question that you or your colleagues or your advisors may raise, or a question that a community may raise, or a community leader may raise, or a community member may raise. It's a issue of who raises good questions, and can that question trigger my curiosity to pursue that research in a manner that excites me. So the question by Sachin, I will answer that question first. It's very interesting that legally, technically speaking, you cannot file a patent on what is prior art. That means which is already published in any text available in any public library or otherwise. However, if you find some novel property which is not published, novel process which is not published, or a product by a new process, new product by a new process, or new product by an old process, that can be patented. So the black pepper as improves the bioavailability of nutrient was known. But when CDRI did research on how piperine might improve the bioavailability of many of the modern drugs also if mixed together, that was a new finding, that it can increase the bioavailability of various compounds in the body. That was a new finding, and I think they had a publication, they had a patent also on that. I will check just now. So just check on piperine CDRI. There is a patent they have, I remember that. Some of you from CDRI might know it. So that is an example where a patent was granted on finding a new explanation which was not mentioned in traditional knowledge. So it is possible. It is possible. Not only incurable disease, even curable disease, if there's a new knowledge, that can be. Now, friends, I suggest we do an exercise, and I would request you to take it with as much enthusiasm as you can muster in the evening today. We divide ourselves into groups. Try hard to discover in your domain. I mean, domain, because in the group you will have people from chemistry, physics, from instrumentation, from a whole range of disciplines. So naturally, you know the journals of your discipline, you know the terms of your discipline, the lexicon of your discipline. Try to search quickly some papers, then propose it to the group. Papers where there's a link with people's knowledge. It could be a news, it could be a paper, it could be a blog. We will not restrict that today. And you can then, among yourself, vote, okay, we will share these 2 papers or 1 paper or 3 papers, that's up to you, to show where effort was made. Now we at this stage, we have accepted that the authorship and all those attribution problems were there in most of the literature in the past. and we may not do it in future, but at least till date, those problems. So we will probably not focus too much attention just now for the purpose of learning, but we will share some insights which maybe in CGCRI, if somebody is there from there, in ceramics, we may have discovered from people who make terracotta figurines, or people who do forging and casting of traditional alloys for various purposes, for making sculptures, but also other things. So if any one of you finds that a particular solution, you have better solution than what, then you vote among yourself and then decide whichever way you wish. But each group could present from different domains. We have seen many examples of plants. So unless there's something very creative, something very interesting, we may play less importance on the plant just now, but I don't mind if you bring that also. But let us try to discover evidence of blending anywhere in the world. But if it is there in your domain, that will be better, because then you can explain to us the significance of that blending, why that blending is important in contemporary context for dealing with some of the current challenges. So it will be very nice if you could tell us those examples. Anybody, any doubt about what I'm saying? Is it understood? The assignment is understood? Before we divide, everybody is clear about what we're trying to do? I will show you one example which you can see that sometimes examples of this kind can also be brought in. This is a paper James Hornell, Director of Fisheries, almost more than 100 years ago, wrote about the design of the boats in Madras Presidency. 1920, it was published, but the republished by the South Indian Federation of Fishermen Societies. And it was 1909, so more than 100 years ago, that he did the documentation and has explained. And some of those designs have continued even today. So surely they were time-tested design, but he spent a lot of time 100 years ago in documenting designs and their importance for different kinds of turbulence in water, and therefore, and the load carrying capacity of these boats up to 200 ton, so on and so forth. So naturally, there are architects, marine people, Nation, NIO, National Institute of Oceanography might have some interest in this kind. So look for whatever kind of, so as I just showed you an example, Rishu, the purpose is in your domain or domain of some of you, I mean, in the group that you will divide, you will have people of different domains. So you search in your domain first, the papers, put a slide of these papers that you find where people's knowledge, I'm not only using the word traditional knowledge, it could be people's knowledge, contemporary knowledge, it could be traditional knowledge, doesn't matter, has been blended with modern science, either for validation or value addition. So you know that aspirin was extracted from certain plants, and then it was synthesized and made very cost effective and with no burden on environment. So that's fine. That's fine. You know, willow is used, willow plant in Kashmir and other parts of Himalayan region. So many compounds extracted from natural sources based on people's knowledge are of everyday use today. We all know that. So look for some extraordinary examples from any discipline of science, which you can explain to us and help us understand. So I was just trying to show you this picture where today's Mirror had this photograph, which is about a very old traditional knowledge. We have heard it for last maybe 30, 40 years. It existed before that. The height at which lapwings lay their eggs is an indication of how good the monsoon will be. So if they give it on they lay on the ground, then the chances are that the monsoon would not be very heavy. And if it is on a higher height, then the chances are that monsoon will be heavy because they estimate the likely intensity of monsoon while laying their eggs. So this is an indicator, eco indicator. No, I had just removed it. If you want to show it, I can show it again. So this was the slide that I was showing. And this is the news that came today in the paper, that is monsoon likely to be lower than normal in this part of the country because of the behavior of lab winds. So there are a lot of ecological indicators which are used, and this is just one example I thought I'll share. Now we will hear from you. So who would like to begin? Anybody from group 1? And even more than one person can share. Pick up any paper and just tell us. If you want to share it, you can share it. So please start. Yes, Sachin, you want to mention what this paper is about?
Yes, sir. I would like to give a brief.
Go ahead, please.
Brahmi oil was applied by Shirovasti, which means that oil was retended on the forehead or head for 20 minutes for 14 days, and in patients of cerebral ataxia. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
So cerebral ataxia is a neurodegenerative disease in which CNS is degenerated over the time. So they applied this oil for 20 minutes for 14 days. And after 14 days, they found that patient was able to speak previously, which was not able to do that, at least 2 words simultaneously. And he had better memory. He was able to recall things. So that was the major outcome of this paper. And Brahmi oil, since it is lipoid in nature, our brain is also lipoid. So that oil is used for as a carrier for Brahmi phytochemicals. So that
Very
was
very interesting, Sachin. Very, very, very important because my wife suffered from this problem for long. So it's a very interesting, very interesting. Brahmi also is given through mixed with the fat through nasal route, and is applied on nose and forehead and so on. But it's very interesting. Next, please.
Sir, I just found this interesting thing where the traditional knowledge has been used in dealing with the pollution data. Like I belong to I work in the pollution science, air pollution science. So in this, there's a community, there was research in Australia where instead of the 4 seasons that we use to describe the pollution data and the variances among these seasons, instead of that, they use the indigenously known 6 or 7 season cycles. So when they use that cycle, 6-7 season cycle, they were better able to understand the data, and the data fell into place. So seasonality was very well visible in that 6-7 season cycle instead of the 4 season cycle.
Very interesting.
Yes, sir. This was really interesting.
Rishu, do you think that given your interest in pollution research, you would like to do a comparative analysis in India?
Yes, sir, we can do.
So, something concrete should come out of every class now. So if, let us say, a few of you find something exciting and relevant to your domain, and you think that without digressing from your main focus in your career, you can do something meaningful, which will increase our understanding of the phenomena and also at the same time increase the respect for people's knowledge or fact. So Rishu, if you can take that, that will be very nice.
Yes.
Next, please.
Hello, sir. This is Anne Mary.
Yeah.
So this is not an article. This is a news report. So based on a title like "Plant a Bond." So in India, we know that osteoporosis is a particular medical condition which the bones become brittle and fragile and loss of tissue. So in India, more than 50 million people, like men and women, both are affected by this. So mostly they were treated with the human parathyroid hormone, which is quite expensive. So it's a particular study which is done by CDRI. So they extracted a compound like dalbergia phenol from the shesham, that is dalbergia siso. So that's a timber tree. So they could make extract this particular compound, and it is actually mimicking, and it is giving nutrition, and it is used as a treatment for this particular disease. So they found this particular extract from such another plant like Himalayan elm, that is Almus valicinia. So they're telling claiming that not claiming, so they found that it is a potential to treat the bone loss, and it can increase the bone mineral density in women after menopause. So not only this particular only single plant, some other plants like ashwagandha, asti samhariga, google, all those plants are prescribed to treat osteoporosis in ayurveda. So they are continuing to do the studies in these particular plants also.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Since I'm working in bone implants, so I'm pretty much interested in particular in this.
Very nice. That would be good if your implants could be impregnated with some of these compounds. It might make it easier for the implants to be accepted by the body, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's
So
very suddenly if I gone through it came across to me. So even I also found it very interesting.
Very good. Hirvia, please. Hirvia, please.
Good evening, sir. I come from food technology background, and I'm from CSIR CFTRI. So the paper that I have put now is regarding jamun seed and fruit extract for reducing diabetes mellitus.
Yeah.
There are umpteen number of
Correct. Very
papers
well.
regarding
Yes.
jamun and diabetes mellitus, and
Correct.
it has been there in our traditional medicine also. So many fruits. I mean, there are umpteen number of fruits and leaves. Or so many things have been used. The same thing now we are using, as they say, thy food is thy medicine. So in our domain, we are trying to incorporate those biomedical properties of those plants into food so that everybody can take it instead
Correct.
as in medicine. So
Right.
food is one more that everybody can enjoy. Now, so many foods are also coming up, like functional foods. Wherever
Yes.
you go to
Yes.
supermarkets, you'll find so many things. So it's a very big domain. So we can work on so many things, sir.
Very nice. Pinky.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, sir. I just my background is botany, but right now actually I'm pursuing my PhD in biophotovoltaics. But recently I come across this interesting article. So it's about Withania somnifera, which is known as ashwagandha.
Yeah.
So the research article is as old as in 1996. It was published in 1996, and it is about the anti-cancer properties of the Withania somnifera. And the article has shown that it has great anti-tumor and radio-sensitizing properties, and it has shown very promising results. And after that, the research has been continued, and recently also the paper research article in 2021, it has shown that it has great potential for anti-cancer drug medicine, all of that. So I found it interesting. I have not been able to explore it properly, but this is something seemed very promising.
You couldn't find anything on photovoltaic property of the plants?
No, sir. I know. Yes, sir. The photovoltaic is completely based on the photosynthetic principle that I can discuss about.
But no. What I'm saying is, have you found any paper where they have looked at the photovoltaic property of the plants? People have not.
Yeah, sir. Definitely, sir. The research has been even the initiation of this research was done by a botanist. He started it with bacteria, but eventually, they came to the plants, and now they are exploring it in every kind of, in photosynthetic plants as well as cyanobacteria, as well as many other algae. So they are exploring the properties of all these microorganisms and plants.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Nitin?
Sir, I can share the screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is more about the improved cook stoves. I think sir will be knowing this since we all travel like across the country and see the innovations. Just to give an hint, most of the cooking still in the rural part of the India is done on wood. There are a couple of reasons. I think we'll not go into that. But how the evolution of cook stoves have taken, and being from engineering background, we can understand this. It's all about the artistic skill or the masonry skills of the local, the mason, like who builds the cook stoves. But with renewed interest from some engineers or technologists from Premier Institute, they have started utilizing the energy which was lost after the flue gas has been taken out. So only first there were no chimneys or something, entire house used to get black, and there were problems of indoor air pollutions and impact on the health of the family members, especially women and children. Those used to stay at home for most of the time in back then. So then there were development of this from Terry also did once cook stoves, then IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, then rural technology action groups of premier IITs, and then they started understanding. But very interesting thing what I observed in the rural communities was uh, they have their own ways of making stoves efficient. Rather than having just a flat bottom, they will just raise the earthen pot so that air will go in through that. Because whenever we want a fire, we require three things. One is fuel, one is oxygen, one is ignition system. So they just added one small stone on top of it, so air used to grow, so there will be efficient combustion. So that one problem was solved locally. The second was more important, was how to use the heat that is going away in form of smoke or flue gas. So I have seen couple of things in Himachal or Ladakh also. They are making like a small water tank and attached to the pipe, so water also get heated. So these are a couple of things they are using on this improved cook stove designs.
Now, only question is that can we design something by which millions of people in our country can fabricate more efficient cooking stoves? Today, the combustion efficiency is hardly 15 to 20%. So if you can improve it 40%, 50%, that will save so much of fuel. Shrimai, please. Shrimai, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Good evening, sir. I'm Srimui Chakraborty. I'm from CSR IICB, Indian Institute of Chemical Biology. Sir, I'm mainly from chemistry background, but at present I'm doing my PhD in biology field. So, sir, I just, while finding different papers, this one which I found very interesting was it's a review work, a review article in which they are speaking of various species of conifers in Iran, and they have mentioned here that the different species have got different medicinal uses. Like one of the species, it has got anti-inflammatory, anti-allergic, and anti-pyretic activities. Thereafter, they also had extended a few other species which have medicinal values like anti-diabetic activity, then anti-tumor activities. So it's a very big review, so I could not read it in detail, but overall view what I found was that with the coniferous plants, the various species of coniferous plants and various parts of it, it has got various medicinal uses, which I found very interesting. Like in neurological activity also, various parts has been used. Then insecticidal activity. In fact, in bronchial effect also, they have shown in the review a few examples of its medicinal activity. So this was all about it, sir.
Does your thesis deal with any of those aspects? No.
No, sir. Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. All right. But try later on when you have that time, look for if there's any linkage that you can build. Anjali?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir. I am Anjali from CSIR NIIST. Sir, I am working on metal organic materials for functional applications. So I am currently working on super hydrophobic materials. And we have seen super hydrophobic materials are emerging fields, synthetically available materials. But I have found a paper very interesting that people, a paper appeared in ACS Applied Nanomaterials in 2019. They have used a leaf mesh of Tectona grandis, a dried leaf mesh of Tectona grandis, and modified it with nanocomposite of nanosilica and polystyrene, and made it for 95% efficiency in oil water separation. And they have achieved a water contact angle of 165 degrees. I will show the picture of.
Yeah. That's amazing, isn't it? How nice. Beautiful.
So this is the leaf mesh.
Ah.
And also one more picture is there.
And you have put it on the chat?
No, sir. I have shared it. Can you see that?
Yes. We can see that.
This is the Tectona grandis leaf mesh, and they have made it modified with nanocomposite of silica and polystyrene, and made it available for 95% efficiency of oil water separation, and even 18 separation cycles they have tried it.
So, oh my God! So mesh continues to be separating for 18 cycles. Very good. This is a great paper, and I think it has a lot of implication for our pollution in the oceans, isn't it?
Yes.
Or in other bodies. Very nice. Please
Thank
put
you,
it on the chat also, this paper. Very interesting. Yes, Devendra?
Yes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm Deven Singh Parihar, working in the field of signal processing and machine intelligence in life monitoring. Sir, as I shared, one of the news which came in 1 year back, like initially, as we know in my field, the traditional method, that is bee heaps, which was initially used for mitigation of crop raiding by the elephants. Now, at the Indian Railway, they are using a bee budge, which is producing the artificial bee sound while train is moving towards the forest area.
Elephant corridors.
Yes. So because of this, when elephant hear these sounds, they diverted from their way, and even they automatically they push themselves away from the railway track. So this method can be further used for the early warning system for the mitigation of elephant death in a railway track.
Very interesting. And
yes.
this is a classical traditional knowledge, and communities have known this.
Yes. So blend of the traditional and the modern.
Very nice. Very good example, Devendra. Very good example. And this is exactly what signal processing is about. So you have found a natural signal that they have imitated, and very nice. Very good example. Next, please.
Regarding an ancient herb, which was consumed earlier by Rishi Munis for its multiple traditional benefits, Sausuria lapa, which is also called as Indian costus, which is traditionally consumed in Kashmir. So the the traditional benefits of it has now been elaborated and tested for its anti-cancer, antioxidant, and hepatocellular and protective benefits. The root extract of this plant has been tested on liver cells, and it has been found to have protection against liver damage and liver cirrhosis. And it has been also elaborated for its antioxidant properties. And the first report of it is from this paper.
Thank you. Next, please. Next one.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Sanjeev.
Sir, I'm Sanjeev from CSI NIST, and I'm doing research in the field of drug delivery in diabetes. So I'm especially interested to develop herbal formulation which we deliver in glucose responsive way. So one thing I would like to state here that we in Assam one plant is available, and it is widespread actually. So the plant name is Tinospora california. So this plant extract has numerous efficacies against different diseases. So in Assam, this plant is locally known as Sagoni Lota. That means it has hundreds virtue. It has 100 types of benefits in different types of diseases. So as I'm doing research in the field of diabetes, so we can go ahead with the its beneficial effect to lower glucose.
Yeah, it is also used in the viral disease control.
Yes,
I mean, it is called
exactly, sir.
Giloy or
Yes,
Guduchi.
Giloy, yeah.
Yes, yes, very nice. Thank you. Next, please. Next.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Gayatri.
I'm Gayatri from CSR IICT. I'm about to explain the same plant, Tinospora cordifolia. Actually, my father is a diabetic who takes this leaves every day to maintain the sugar levels. And it is, I'm observing him from last 1 year. So it is almost like it's not increasing. The levels of glucose are not increasing. This is the example which I have seen with my eyes. So I would, yeah, if possible, I'm planning to start a research on this in diabetes, like targeted drug delivery in diabetes. Hopefully it will go on to the track once I finish with my PhD.
Very nice, very
Yeah,
nice.
and apart from this, in our area, we will use this for liver diseases and also for snake bites. So they will ingest the leaves on empty stomach daily, so that it will have a hepatoprotective effect.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Next, please.
Hello, sir. This is Vikas from CSIR NCL. So I want to share one article I found. This also first time this I saw in one of my boss presentation. So in around 1770s, the Galvani was interested in some animal electricity flow in an animal, and he observed electricity flow in a frog, and Volta saw this and he rejected this theory, and he further investigated this and come up with this electrostatic energy storage, and from there the battery field comes. So I find this interesting example. Another article I found in which it was already in traditional knowledge review, some journal related to traditional knowledge. I can share the link of that also. So in these paper, in this article, they are actually interested in making future energy policy by properly incorporating the local tribes, because there are a lot of energy projects which are making to flee the people living that area. Similar example they have quoted in Guyana. And so what they are describing, that the regional people better understand the flow of winds, they better understand the local solar effect in that particular region. And also they quoted an example from Barefoot College in Rajasthan, which is teaching the local population about the solar panel installation and how to utilize solar electricity. And they are also doing similar kind of work in Africa as well as in Afghanistan. So they are training those people, because Rajasthan is a more better equipped to have solar plants. So in this way they are formulating the future energy, sustainable energy storage, specifically for renewable energy. So I am also working in energy storage, so I thought to bring it.
Very interesting. Both examples are very good. Prachi?
Hello, good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm Prachi from CSIO Chandigarh. I would like to share a recent news article that I came across, and that is about a technique named Swastik that has been developed by this CSIR lab and NCL Pune.
Okay, what is it about?
Actually, so this technique is basically for disinfection, economical disinfection of water, and it integrates with the traditional knowledge of Ayurveda. It is basically involves it basically involves technique of boiling liquid, which is due to the result of pressure reduction, and then with the use of natural oils, the antimicrobial properties of these oils are used for the disinfection of water. In this, they have a combination of chemistry, biology, and chemical engineering, and they have basically the researchers have achieved complete eliminations of gram-negative E. coli, gram-positive auris bacteria, and some other antibiotic resistant species have also been removed by using these oils. So here, this technique is basically a blend of traditional knowledge of Ayurveda and the technology.
Very good example. Very good example. Very good example. Thank you. Priyadarshini.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'm Priyadarshini. I'm from CSIR Nest, Trivandrum. So I am from the field of chemistry, sir. And this paper I now found where they have used the traditional medicine. Like they have used it, they have found that there is a bioactive molecule there, and then they have used it to used organic chemistry to modify it and to better efficiently fight the disease. So this is one of the examples where we can use the traditional knowledge and then use our expertise in creating a better molecule to fight against the known diseases. And this is relevant, especially in India, because we have a lot of Ayurveda knowledge and where we have a lot of Rasayana, Kashayam, where we use these kind of mixtures of compounds, from bioactive plants. So we can use things like that to improve our expertise. I'm also working on some kind of similar problem for my PhD, where I'm isolating molecules from natural products and then enhancing them to fight against diabetes, hypertension, and things like that, sir.
Good. Are you trying to use the knowledge of the communities also, or only published?
Yes. Yes, sir. We have established some few links with people who are traditionally in Ayurveda doctors and those who are traditionally in the tribal people who have more knowledge about the plants.
Make them your partner. Make them your partner.
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Good. Next, please.
Thank you, sir.
Very nice. Next, please. Amandeep, would you like to be next?
Yes, Sir Amandeep here.
Yeah.
Sir, I have found this article. It is about the vibration and noise mitigation. And in this, they use the sandwich structures. They have first hard structure and then soft structure and then again a hard structure. So for the soft structure, they are using cotton, and for the hard structure, they are using bamboo and rossel and pine. So they have done experimental study to find its mechanical properties like elastic modulus and other properties like the wave number to find its noise and vibration mitigation properties. And they have concluded that the use of low shear modulus material like the cotton can be efficiently used for this application.
Very interesting, because a composite of bamboo and cotton would be something I have never seen before. So it is very interesting. Next, please. Deepak, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. I am from CSIR NPL. I want to share a paper on behalf of my group number 3.
Go ahead.
This is the paper, Development of a Fuel Efficient Cook Stove. In this, there is a bottom-up approach used to implement to develop a fuel efficient cook stove. In this, there is a reduction of firewood consumption by around 21%, reduced soot accumulation by around 38%, and time of cooking preparation by around 18.5%.
Very nice, very nice. From IIT Bombay. Yeah.
This is used for 2-pot stove and 3-pot stove. This is the general design that is used in the village. around India. This is the lady which is testing the water boiling test in the village were carried out by this woman, where fired her cook stove to find out its performance. This is the design of a twisted mild steel plate that is put on this.
Yeah, we had given Gyati award to this student. Very nice. Yes, it makes the heat flow into the vessel rather than diffuse. Very interesting.
These twisted tapes hanging in the hearth holes. Twisted tape in the hearth holes by using steel rods.
Very interesting.
And this is the experimental setup carried out to put water boiling test in the laboratory. Thermocouples are used to measure the temperature of water and the temperature of the flame, both pots and hearths. And this is the this design. This was the twisted tape packs that can be retrofitted in the traditional cook stove.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm happy with that. Very
showing here. And
yeah. Very nice.
Also, that they divided the percentage of heat input to cook stove. That is 25.81% only heat transferred to the pot. Exit losses are 24.98% and combustion losses are 35.92%.
Yeah. No,
so they improve the combustion efficiency and reduce the exit losses.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Ashish.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Sir, I have gone through previous literature and I found a paper that is published in traditional that is published in on Asian Pacific Journal of Tropical Biomedicine, in which they have talked about Helicopterus isora.
Remove your screen sharing, please. Yeah, go ahead, Ashish.
So, so in this review, they talk about they have collected various literature, various papers, and they from the different search, they describe that this plant that is H. isora has some properties like antioxidant property, antibacterial, peroxidative property, anti-cancer activity, and anti-diarrheal activity. So in Hindi, we used to call it as Marodfali. And even in our traditional knowledge also, we have used it for to relieve stomach pain, worm infection in children, and even for indigestion and treating diarrhea and vomiting. So there may some systemic study can be planned to further confirm these findings.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. Thank you, Ashish. And next, please. Who would like to be next?
Myself, Preeti.
Yeah.
I am from CSI NISPA. As we know, TKDL play important role in the waste management from the ancient time. And this method of approach still is going in village. Still, there is a segregation method they use to recycle organic waste and organic waste 100% and back to the soil. But this is not happening in the urban areas. Earlier, if we see ancient time, so that food waste, agriculture waste, cloth, all can be recycled. They're more focused on the reuse, recycle, and minimum disposal. So my work in that area, how to minimize the waste in urban and maximize the organic waste recycling.
Okay. Very nice. So you are trying to find
the policy and the what are the technology that can support, because everyone is saying about door to door is suitable, door to door collection is very much important for segregation, but segregation never help until unless when there is not separate collection system is exist, and in the village system there is a separate collection system is exist. That's why they can able to recycle the organic waste.
Correct. That's a very interesting observation. Very nice. Thank you. Taira has mentioned that there is a plant called as Costus igneus, which has been widely used for controlling the diabetes. People have been using 2 to 3 leaves daily. Thank you, Taira. This is a useful insight. Maybe somebody has done research on it. We will have to find out. Nettle leaf and others are also used. Next, please. Anything from material science or other physical sciences or minerals or metals or clay, ceramics.
Yes, sir. I am Sagar from CSIO Chandigarh. I am from Group 4, and we discussed about some of the water purification traditional techniques. As we know that right now RO systems are being used, which are a bit acidic in their nature. The water, the output is a bit acidic, and also it removes the essential minerals from it. So there is a traditional way of purifying the water at home, which uses different types of cloths. It may be a coarse media filters. For gravel filters like pebbles, coconut fiber filters are being used for filtering the water, and some roots are also used. Roots of some plants are used, and they can even remove the water contaminations like fluoride from water. So this was a sort of a clay jar arrangement where layers of roots are being used. 2-stage, 3-stage filtration is done in clay vessels.
Very nice, Sagar. That's very interesting, very affordable. Kaushal has mentioned very interesting point with about how the traditional musical instrument like Tanpura was blended with electronic amplification and system and by Raj Narayan in 1979, which has brought a new experience in music. So that's a very interesting example of blending. Thank you. Anybody else? Who's next, please? On climate, some of you have mentioned. Well, anybody would like to talk about it? How climate perception and adjustment to climate change, traditional knowledge has been found to be very useful. Many large international efforts are going on in tapping the traditional knowledge about wind, about weather, about temperature. Anybody would like to comment on that? That's welcome. Any group which has not shared their insight, anything unusual, olive seeds. Anybody else, please? Yes, Deepak, you wanted to add something?
Yes, sir.
Quickly, briefly, yeah.
This is low-tech air conditioner. Use terracotta tube and
yes, very nice.
Water to naturally cool down air. This is the design in which water is flowing from up to down, and air is flowing from one side to another side, and the room is cooled down.
Yes, very nice, very useful. And we have seen this. Yes. Anti-studio.
This
yeah,
is
we
the
have seen
cheaper
this
alternative.
Correct.
And very efficient.
Yes.
It cool downs around 6 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes. Very effective use of traditional knowledge. Very good example. Thank you, Deepak. Anybody else, please?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Rupa Brata, you will talk about honeybees and mention about their role in climate monitoring. So what she's mentioned is that honeybees are exceptional markers for climate change. Studies are carried out on their movement, mortality, and behavior. Yes, of course, in some cases, they have been very high degree of mortality. In Karnataka, for example, there was a huge loss of indigenous honeybees. Anybody else, please? Yes, Yeah, that is well known. No Jatropha for biofuel. Yes. Anybody else? Any unusual insight about blending? Anybody else before I want to? Yes. Dragonfly as a natural indicator of rainfall. Very interesting. One can test it out. One can check their behavior. That's very interesting. Aluminum foil and a hemisphere container working as a concentrator to dry coffee beans. That seems a very good blend. Very nice. Shreya's comment on adaptogens, very important. Changing conditions, we all need them. Yes, yes. Now let's come to the point about why the scientific system in our country has not given enough attention to blending the knowledge system. So if you remember, I had given you example from Anantnag, where we had seen a house using jute fiber, clay, straw of rice for making a wall or house which would not allow organic matter to deposit and create black patches through fungal spores. So in architecture, we have had traditional knowledge. We have used people's knowledge. Now, please remember, blending is not only with traditional knowledge. Blending can also be done with contemporary knowledge in water conservation, in cooling systems, in cleaning water, as some of you have mentioned. A very good example of NCL was given by Deepak as to how they use some of the Ayurvedic medicines. Yes, who's sharing this? Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Who's sharing? Any maggots for treating wound to enhance healing and reduce infection. That's very interesting. Maggots are a source of problem. But here is a saying of Prophet Muhammad about 1400 years ago. If a housefly falls in the drink of anyone, he should dip it in. But one of its wing has a disease, the other has a cure for the disease. That's very interesting. Maggot therapy. So that's very interesting. I've never heard of it before. But lucidity, feeding on liver and producing copious amount of extra oral secretion which can be collected for testing. Very interesting, very interesting. I can't see the name, but it was very interesting. Anybody else wants to share? So what are the institutional changes that we need to bring about to build these linkages? Now, caterpillar that eats plastic, oh my God, that would be wonderful, isn't it? Everybody needs that. We found a caterpillar that eats plastic. Okay, so there's a very interesting paper she has mentioned in the chat. And of course, all of us will find that relevant because this is such a serious problem today. So good. Friends, before we wind up today, I would like to ask 2 or 3 questions. First question is, what changes should be brought about in institutional conditions, let's say of CSIR labs, which will encourage more exploration of this blending process? What do you think we need to do? Anybody? Any suggestion, any observation? What empowerment do you need to walk on this path? Jayashri, Dhani, Deepa, Divya? Yes, Aisha, that's a good point. Excursion. So we do Shodhyatras. Maybe we should come, we should have a Shodhyatra with all of you or in groups, because large size will be too much, but maybe in a group of 50 or 70, we think of that. That's not a bad idea. High-end collaboration.
Sir,
Yeah, go ahead.
it would be better if we have a more of a connection with pharmaceutical companies or drug companies that will help us in finding out what is actually needed in the real scenario, instead of just focusing on, so that we can use the traditional knowledge as well as the realistic approach towards finding better drugs or towards finding better solutions to treat our diseases.
Okay. Varsha has mentioned about using rice husk as a super plasticizer and blended with fly ash for producing geopolymeric material for construction, which is very interesting. Now we know that rice straw husk has been used in various construction activities, but the property that you have mentioned is very interesting. So I think we need to evaluate the reason why some of the structures have stood the weather for 2000 years. Stupas, Buddhist stupas still stand today. What kind of binding materials they used, what kind of clays they used. Our modern structures can't withstand the weather for more than 25, 30, 40 years. The parliament building in 70 years is being demolished or maybe is being replaced. So also for many other buildings. But some of the ancient structures have withstood thousands of years and have been staying there. So obviously there's something that we need to know about materials that were used at that time. How could they have such a low entropy that they could last so long? And mind you that many of the bricks, as I mentioned earlier, used in traditional structures were also reusable, which is not the case with modern concrete. So there's a huge amount of landfill, and landfill is nothing but choking the drainage channels of the earth. So it's like lungs of the earth are being choked. Naturally, the system will die. So one suggestion you are making is that we should have excursion. We should have Shodhyatras maybe. That's a very good idea. Second, you're saying that if the unmet needs of the society are pointed out, you orient your research to address those needs and use the people's knowledge. What else should we do? Nitin, you had any suggestion? Any lack of, yeah, that's another good idea, that we should also study history better. I showed you that book, boat's design of 1902, which Fisheries Federation has republished it. Asiatic Society Library in Calcutta, which I have visited many times, has some wonderful collection of old manuscripts, and also the Asiatic Society Library in Mumbai. So there would be interest. But I would talk about contemporary knowledge of people, because that's how people are surviving. So it could also be innovations that people use, which can blend knowledge, will blend your science. So don't think that we should only blend modern science in the traditional knowledge. We can also, that's very nice. We should make a database that will encourage people to get interested. And one database that already exists, I told you, 131,000 bits of knowledge, which NIF shared on his website, which is published knowledge on which they would not work, but that is very useful and you can use it, refer to it. That's open access. Yes, that will be very useful also, that if the research is pooled together. So we have one database, as you have seen, techpedia.in. You can try to build a separate or a similar database of research on specific bits of knowledge. And then we can put this database in Hindi and other Indian languages so that people can also use this database. Young people can use it and find out how their knowledge has been scrutinized by the scientific system. So that will be very useful. Any suggestion before we close today? Any other idea, a radical idea that you think will increase the blending process? If not, then let me remind you that we are going to work in groups, and you are supposed to form the group very soon about the unmet need on which you want to work interdisciplinary manner, and try to come out with some reviews, and also after reviewing the literature, what could be done to meet that unmet need. So take a persistent problem in your domain and we have to work out a project. So Ashwini, we will have to discuss this sometime to clarify this in more detail and work out a timeline so that they can share their synopsis of which unmet need they are going to take. And if we need to change it or modify it, we will do that. So one session we'll have to keep only on the synopsis of your projects that you will do on specific unmet need, which hopefully with blending or otherwise will be met through your effort. So friends, thank you so much.